But what are some of those things at a young age that you were thinking as you're going through this economics course? So wait a minute, I got $1,200 of jerseys that I'm making no money on that was spent, right? Because in order to get the jerseys, somebody had to buy them. This is the mindset of somebody who does well with money compared to the mindset of somebody who spends a lot of money.
Yeah. So what it was, I would watch my parents spend stuff, right? And so seeing that, I'm like, oh, cool. So I used to be a spender, but I still kind of had like, I know I can't spend all of it because if I spend all of it, I don't have it. So I used to be real good at Monopoly. Well, I don't want to say used to. I still am really good.
There we go.
I'm really good at Monopoly. I should be in the World Monopoly.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast, where we exclusively talk to Black men about, in fact, this year in 2024, we're going to do 100 Black men that have success in their own right. And when we think about success and we think about what does it mean to be successful, is are your dreams coming true? Are the things that you want to do happening? And are you able to make an impact on your community? And so each time that we do this, we have guests that are on that are doing something in their own right. All of them have, I don't think I've interviewed somebody who hasn't had community as a priority. And us as a priority as we go out and we try to make a difference in lives. And you think about, the journey to freedom for some of our folks that came before us, the shoulders that we're standing on, the giants that went through so many more things than I could ever imagine. When I think back to my Native American heritage and think about, what my grandma who grew up on a reservation and the things that she had to endure and go through. I think of on my other side, the Jackson family and the plantation that they had to endure. And then I think about my incredible life that God has been able to give me and the time that I get to live in. Is it a perfect life? Absolutely not. Is there more that I can do? Absolutely so. But when I think about us being able to help each other achieve some of the things that we really want in life, and what does success mean? And BJ, I'll ask you that question as we talk. Today, it is a really good show. I'm excited about the show because I still have the Black Wealth Experience podcast. And BJ was one of my, probably my first 20 guests that I had on that show. And he just opened my eyes when it comes to talking about finance and when it comes to talking about what he's done for his family and the things that he's been able to achieve in systems that are designed to get exactly what they're getting. But sometimes these systems are not designed to get out what we would like to have or for us to have these incredible lives. And despite those systems that have been put in place, BJ has found ways to circumvent the system, work with inside the system, and still get out some results that have just been incredible. And so, BJ, thank you for being on today. Thank you for your time. Like I said, I'm excited about this show because we only had about 20 minutes on the first show, and we're going to take up our whole hour this time and just talk about those different things. So maybe, BJ, you can just kind of start about your story, like, where you came from, where you grew up, what was your family dynamic? That seems to be something that, I hate that we get into the comparison trap. Because a lot of us do, because we look at somebody else and so we say, hey, I would love to have what they have, but I didn't grow up the way they grew up, or they were lucky, or they were blessed. So it's really good to have, I guess a whole bunch of different viewpoints to say, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter where you grew up. You can do these things. And so, maybe you can start right there with just talking about where you came from. And then we'll just go on from there, and we'll just chop it up.
Yeah, no doubt. So, born and raised Denver, Colorado, East Side area. So 5 Points, y'all familiar with that, Curtis Park area. And this is something that we typically don't talk about. So I'll talk about it for probably one of the very first times in mass. Is that I was born out of wedlock. My father was married to another woman, and they were separated for her infidelity and things that she was doing. And during that separation, my father got with my mother, and 9 months later, so to speak, here I am. And so people in my family they think that like I grew up in a 2-person household, and actually I was with my mom for the first 10 and a half years of my life. It was just me and my mom. So I was raised by a single mother for that period of time until my dad finally was able to get a divorce from his previous wife, and then married my mother when right before I was 10. And then subsequently, we wound up moving in together, having a house and all that stuff. And so basically from, middle of 4th grade, I'm 10 and a half to, now my parents have been married together, but came from that and all the dynamics that come, with that kind of situation. Father having other children with his previous wife, and those dynamics and how they play, and maybe one is his and maybe one isn't, and all those kinds of things. Again, I told you they were separated over her infidelity, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, that played a big part in the background, right? And so, for the first 10-ish years of my life, my father was in the picture, but not present, right? I wasn't living with him. We weren't together. We weren't even in the same state.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So when I was born, shortly thereafter, I want to say, and I'll have to confirm this with my mom. I can't remember the exact details, but she wound up moving with me to Arizona. For that period of time, we were in Arizona until my dad wound up, and then he was here in Denver. And then when he finally got that divorce, married my mom, so on and so forth, we moved back from Arizona to Denver. Was in Denver ever since. So yeah, there was that dynamic as well, right? So moving forward with both parents in household, and now they're trying to start a life that they weren't planning on from the beginning, and trying to incorporate the different dynamics of this is who you are, and now we're living together, and we have this child who's 10 and a half years old together, and we have to try and raise him and do all these different things and figure out all this stuff. All that to say is it was not a typical family dynamic, right? It wasn't the white picket fence and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't
Did you have siblings that were half brothers and sisters, or
so one of them for sure, because she definitely looks like me and my father. The other one we're not so sure about.
Okay.
But they exist, but they never wanted me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's got to play when we talk about identity, and we talk about what shapes you for 10.5 years. You got a whole different identity dynamic.
Oh yeah.
Whoever, right? Where do I fit in?
Right. So for me, I was raised an only child. Even when we came up here, they had no interaction with me and my parents. There was no connection. They went with their mom and they did their thing, and they didn't want to. There was a lot of animosity. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And from the time I was born, they didn't want me, right? And it's hard to understand on children. Like they start to look at certain things like, oh, this is, as kids, they're blaming like me. I did something, when it was between our parents. It was our parents, and they didn't get that then. I don't even know if they really even still get it now as adults with the children of their own. But all that to say is they never really had a relationship. And so I am, in a sense, an only child. And my mother's only child. I was raised an only child. I didn't have any siblings around me or anything like that. So had that, right?
Okay.
And you also have, from a financial perspective, then, dad's paying child support, right?
That's good. Yeah.
For at least one of the children. So there's those kinds of things that are going on, right?
Yeah.
There's, hey, I have my money habits, dad, and mom has her money habits, right?
Yes. Okay.
And we're now trying to figure out how to make those work.
Mhm.
One has one credit history, one has another credit history, right? And now we have a home, we have those kinds of dynamics. And a lot of the things, I'll say this, so because both of my parents, my mother was a nurse,
Mhm.
my dad worked for worked for the devil.
Oh.
He worked for the IRS, right? So the devil. And so with that, right? Both of them are generating income. We have a dual household income at this point now when I'm 10 and a half. But we're also growing up, or I'm growing up. It's not like a lot of money. We have bills, but also my dad is the, so to speak, head of the entire family. He comes from siblings of 9, right? So he's one of 9. He's also number 2 in order and the oldest boy. So there's 9 siblings, 7 of them are boys, 2 of them are girls, the bookends, right?
Mhm.
And their father, my grandfather, was out of the picture when my dad was about 12 years old.
Oh, okay.
So my dad is the patriarch of the family. Everybody's looking to him. He's been taking care of them for so long. So as I'm growing up and things are happening, they're always looking to him for support, right?
Of course, yeah.
And him naturally, from the situation that he was thrust in then, was I have to take care of them. Now he's taking care of siblings as if they're his children and not his siblings.
Wow.
So they become older and they are adults and they have families of their own. He's still looking at them as they're his kids, not his siblings, and not grown adults that should be taking care of themselves. So yeah, some of those financial things that start playing into it of like, well, they have to go take care of them. They need to be taking care of them. Why are you still taking care of them from a financial standpoint as if you're their father, right? So those dynamics played into it, into growing up. And then our family then looked at me. So now I'm only child, right? So the extended family, cousins, that kind of stuff, uncles, aunts, all that stuff. So they looked at me like, oh, you're spoiled. I'm like, what? Wait, because now I'm only child. You have parents that just finally got together, and now, okay, yeah, I don't have to share with anybody, but I have to do all the chores by myself, right? So they don't see that. And then also, my parents were they're like, oh, you have all of this. Well, we have a 2-person household, and the rest of my family was not doing those things, right? So they had relationships, they had children, but not everybody was together, right?
Gotcha.
So there's a different dynamic there. And then also my parents, because of not only their incomes, but their credit, they were able to buy things on credit. So there was a lot of stuff that we wind up getting throughout my childhood that we didn't own. Somebody else owned that. We're just paying on that, right? But my parents are also boomers. So from a boomer standpoint, right, the dynamic, not every boomer's like this, but generalizing, is that boomers are like, we're going, from an economic standpoint, we buy stuff, RVs, and we buy the toys, and we buy this. And that's what boomers have done historically from an economic perspective, right? Absolutely. So we're doing that on credit. And so my family is seeing like, oh, you have this. And it's like, yeah, that's being paid off, bro. But they don't know that. They don't.
Yeah, of course not. No, because they just think that you're balling and you're not sharing what their belief is. You should probably be sharing more than you are, right? You're bougie, I guess. Is the
yeah. Right. All that to say is that that's what I wound up growing up in, right? And then that shaped a lot of my habits where I saw what my parents were doing, but I was also observing for myself, how do I increase money for me, right? I'm like, how do I increase my financial position, make it better than what it is? So I had a savings account. My mom got me a savings account when I was early. So I had a savings account. When I started working as a teenager, I would put money in the savings account. And then I was like, oh, how can I make more money? Tell me about these CDs, right? Because at the time, we didn't have like the trading platforms that you have online
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. You would have to go to a broker back then, right? Scott Trade was just starting to come out, that kind of stuff. And it was really, really new. And I didn't know anything about the market. So I'm like, what do I know? Bank tells me, oh, we have CDs that will pay you interest. Cool. So I remember I opened up a CD, started putting money in there, and I didn't understand how the percentage calculations actually worked, because they said, they're like, oh, you'll get this percent, right? So I'm thinking every month I get that percent. It's like, no, that was the annual percentage, right, of the CD. And so you actually get a 12th of that, so to speak, per month. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks. I thought I was going to get this much. Wait a minute. So
you put your calculator in and go,
exactly. I'm like, wait a minute.
No.
This doesn't work. Wait, because I thought I was getting a deal. And I mean, it's better than, savings interest. But I thought I was real. I kept looking at that account like, that math don't math. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
They had to explain it to me like, that's not how the interest works. I'm like, no, that sucks. This isn't cool. So I started my journey, right? And I'm making money as a teenager, working at the grocery store and teenage job, right? I'm putting some money in CDs. And then I'm just learning from that perspective, that experience, and trying to grow. And there's not a lot of people around in my circle of family or friends that are doing anything substantial economically. So, but I'm constantly hearing about stock market and investing and do this. So I'm like, okay, like I want to get into that one day, right? I took a stock market. It was a personal finance class in high school. In retrospect, I'm like, this class was terrible. At the time, we learned how to like balance a checkbook.
Yes.
Yeah, we did some stuff like with stock, like, some mock simulations. But I really wasn't taught about money and really what I was doing, right? So just looking back in high school, I'm like, I don't know if that was even valuable other than I can say I took it, right? I get into college then, and freshman year, this is what flipped my whole perspective. I think I talked about this last time, is that I'm taking my economics 101 course, and we're getting into carrying costs, right, and inventory. And that if a business purchases inventory, you now have money sitting on a shelf, so to speak, right, until it sells. You don't make money until that sells. So you drop $10,000 into this product. You don't make anything. You have $10,000 literally sitting on a shelf until you sell it, right? And that flipped my entire world. I started thinking about, I'm like, wow, because at the time, wearing jerseys was really popular. And so I bought a lot of jerseys in high school and then in college before this happened. And I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, you don't make money until you get that. So your return on investment doesn't start to be realized until you actually sell. You have all this money sitting on a shelf. And I started looking at my personal self, and I'm like, I have probably 11, 12 jerseys at the time, not including all my other clothes. But I started just thinking about jerseys. I'm like, I have 11, 12 jerseys sitting in my closet right now, and half of which I haven't even worn yet. And let's just say they were average about $100 a piece. So I'm like, that's $1,200 I have sitting in my closet just in jerseys. And what is the return that I'm getting off of that? If I can only wear one at a time anyway, and half of them I'm not even wearing yet because I'm just looking at them look pretty and brand new sitting on the on the rack, and it looks nice, but I'm like, I don't really want to ruin it yet. Take it out, get it dirty. I'm like, that's $600 that's just sitting there that I'm not even rotating through. And I dropped money. What could I put that money to use for elsewhere? Then it got me thinking about, well, I'm a business student. If I'm going to go into business when I graduate and I'm going to be working at that time, it's like, hey, you're going to go work for somebody. I'm not going to be wearing or able to wear jerseys because the dress is going to be a different expectation. I'm going to have suits. So if I am going to have clothes, I need to not buy more casual type things. I need to buy more businessy things so that I can actually get a return on the investment. So that economics class, literally that day when we were going through that, like, this all went through my mind like this. It was like almost like in an instant. I just started thinking like, well, oh yeah, I need to do something different.
Wow.
That
let me stop you for a second, because I want to unpack some of this, because it is so vital to this conversation of identity and who we are and how money goes. I think the first thing you said is I worked as a teenager. When I think about our generations now, I don't know if there's jobs for teenagers. Right? I think of washing dishes at 14 and a paper route and all these things that teach you and become your money identity, other than the boomer side of seeing everybody spend it as fast as you get it.
Right.
Then I think of where you're talking about the jerseys, and I think of all these folks that have so many pairs of shoes, right? Yeah. And the one guy who says, well, I only have one pair of shoes because I only got one pair of feet, right? Why do I need to have more shoes? But we think it, and then you're literally thinking about, which is different than others, because you took a personal finance course. When my first year teaching, I had to teach a class, and I literally took a group of kids. I think it was at a 8th grade class, I think, because I did at the junior high. And I took them to the supermarket to compare prices. Like, that had nothing to do, just so that we could write it down. And we had to write down a checkbook register, and this is how you write a check, and this is how you sign your name, and this is
right.
There's nothing about how to create money, to create wealth, or bring wealth in the house. Just how to maybe manage some of the money you have and some of the tools you have. But now you're taking this personal finance course, you're taking this economics course, and you're literally thinking through the process that many of us don't, because in our culture, we're so used to spending. Yeah. We're not used to having that thought process. And so I guess what I'm asking is, in your identity, as you're going through your story here, what are some of the things that you saw, or some of the things that I guess maybe it's just God or whatever, that just said, hey, wait a minute, pay attention to those things. And what I'm saying as you're watching this, pay attention to the stuff he's saying, as the mindset that goes through there. But what are some of those things at a young age that you were thinking as you're going through this economics course? So wait a minute, I got $1,200 of jerseys that I'm making no money on that was spent, right? Because in order to get the jerseys, somebody had to buy them, right? Your money, to be able to sit there. But then thinking, okay, I don't want this to be closets and closets full of stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that's where you're going. So I'll go ahead, and I just want to interject that as folks are watching this, to think about, okay, this is the mindset of somebody who does well with money compared to the mindset of somebody who spends a lot of money.
Yeah. So what it was, I would watch my parents spend stuff, right? And so seeing that, I'm like, oh, cool. So I used to be a spender, but I still kind of had like, I know I can't spend all of it, because if I spend all of it, I don't have it. So I used to be real good at Monopoly. Well, I don't want to say used to. I still am really good.
There we go.
I'm really good at Monopoly. I should be in the World Monopoly Championship somewhere.
There we go.
Love it. So that was my game. And me and my cousins used to play it so much when I was growing up that we had to invent new rules just to keep us stimulated playing it, right? So if you don't have money, you can't go around and buy property. If you don't have money, you can't pay the rent when you land on somebody's property, right? You can't pay the income. So Monopoly, great game. I think everybody should play that game, because at the end of the day, whoever has the most money and the most property wins, right? And make other people go bankrupt. They have to pay you. They can't pay anything else, and they're out of the game. So that kind of shaped me too, of like, hey, I need to make sure that I have money so I can play the game, whatever that is. And then I'll step back a little bit. As I'm a teenager and I'm working in high school, things weren't well financially at home. So it wasn't I have a job just to make some money on the side or whatever. It was, hey, you need to have this job in order for you to have certain things, because we can't get them for you, right? Okay. And so going through that stuff in high school was, okay, again, I have to pay for my necessities. If I'm going to drive around, I gotta have gas. So if I don't have money, I can't put gas in the car, can't drive to school, can't drive to the party, can't do whatever. So it's like, okay, I have to monitor what I'm spending, and I have to then sacrifice and forego immediate gratification things for the long game, right? Just like in Monopoly, there might be something that I want to buy, but I know I might hit this and I really need to get these houses, right? So can't do that. I got to wait so I can get those houses and then really make it big. So Monopoly helped kind of drive that. But then also my financial circumstances as a teenager. And because I personally, I like nice things, right? I like nice shoes. I like, because back then it was cars, clothes, and girls, and not necessarily in that order, right? So it was like, hey, I gotta look good, I gotta drive good, I gotta try and get these ladies to like me. So I gotta this is that the other. So I need money. So I like nice things then. I like nice things now. Vacations, whatever, so on and so forth. It's shifted now in terms of that, but I also understand starting with that economics course in college had me shift then to say, okay, how do I prioritize the things that I want? Okay, sacrifice, okay. Right? That's ultimately what it is. Like you can't lose the weight in the gym if you don't sacrifice the McDonald's or the donuts, right? You got to cut something in order to get something else. You can't have it all. It just doesn't happen. So if you want X over here, you got to get rid of Y over here, right? If you want, and so I want greater than what's in front of me. So I pursued that. And then ultimately, this is key. This is key. Hone in on this, y'all watching at home or wherever. Discipline. So I had a goal and I was disciplined to go get it, right? Because it's one thing, again, to say, hey, I want to lose the weight, the goal, but you have to be disciplined in that effort to get it. Hey, I want to pay off my house as soon as possible. How do I do that? I go and I put the plans together with the goal, and then I'm disciplined in those plans and execution, and went and paid off our house in 4.5 years after we purchased it. So no debt, right? So like those are the types of things I have that goal, be disciplined, because you can have the goal all day, but if you're not disciplined in it, it's just a wish. It's just a fairy tale. It's never going to happen. But being disciplined and going after it, I would say, was ultimately what shaped the results. So
okay. What a great education. So when we think about sacrifice and discipline, like some folks will tell you, you just need to go make more. You need to, you need to.
Disagree 100%, because you're there, right?
There you go. Okay.
So what'll happen is you are constantly like a spender. If you go make more, you're just going to spend more, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a saver, right? If you make more, you'll save more, right? So if you don't change your habits and get disciplined on those habits, like go ahead and make more all you want to, but you're a spender. You're the TV now without money. What are you going to do when you have money? You're going to buy a bigger TV, right? You're going to buy a bigger car, a fancier car. You're going to go on a more elaborate vacation, and at the end of the day, that stuff will just be stuff. And you will have nothing in the bank still. You'll have nothing for wealth generation for you, for your kids, for retirement, for anything like that. You're just going to have a bunch of stuff. And then guess what? When you have a bunch of stuff and then that turns into a bunch of debt, you got bill collectors calling you. That's something I don't want.
What do you say to because you live kind of through this, is to the person who, they have a family that has expectations of being taken care of. They have this expectation of, that if you are doing well, then you owe me. And then so, like your dad felt like he had to take care of his siblings, even though they were like his kids. Like we have a neighbors who, 4th of July is coming up. And I was just talking to my other neighbor about it. And they're going to go spend $2,000 or so on fireworks, right? So that all the family can come over and enjoy an hour worth of fire going up in the air. Right. But that is in the budget for the year, right? That's not part of their, because I see all the other stuff they spend on and see the things. But I think they have that I'm for taking care of the fund. I'm responsible for taking care of the mismanagement. What do you say to folks that part of who their family is? I mean, we love our families and we need to take care of our families, and our families are part of it, but how do you, the airplane, I guess, where you put your mask on first, right, before you. How do you see that playing out in the world that you live in?
Yeah. So, I mean, that start with this. So humans are not logical creatures. We are emotional. Okay. And so that's an emotional response, which is fine, right? It's fine in survival mode. And what Lil Wayne said, he said, it's not tricking if you got it. So if you got it, I mean, there's nothing wrong essentially with it, other than, I'll say this, you're enabling them to continue to be dependent on you. It's actually what our government does with poor people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You continue to enable them with Section 8 food stamps and all these subsidies and all these quote unquote entitlement type programs. And that's a whole nother debate and conversation. But that's what you're doing with your family members, is that you're not letting them learn how to fend for themselves, and you're actually doing them a disservice. And you can even look at this in like the outside of the human sphere, but like the animal kingdom. In the animal kingdom, they have to teach their children, right, their cubs, what have you, from a bear standpoint, how to survive without them, right? Yeah. And continue to provide for our family members, and they have an expectation that we're going to do so. What happens when you die? You get hit by a bus. What then? How are they going to survive? How are they going to fend for themselves? And then usually this is the response. Well, they'll have to figure it out then. Well, why don't you have them figure it out now? Why are they draining your resources? They should be here, and especially the family dynamic, right? This is big. This is huge, because we think that we can take our families instead of give the that, right? We'll have people ask us, members, for, hey, can I borrow some money? I'm a little short on this, right? I can get some dollars. It's like, oh, hey, that's cool. We'll take care of you. Here's a couple $100 or whatever. Go handle your business. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get it back to you. Okay, cool. Yep, get back to me. They'll go and they'll get the phone turned back on, the cable, and they'll pay everybody else back first, not their family. How wrong is that? You go and pay, like, this is your family who you're supposed to know and love and care for. You should be caring for them more than anybody else, right? But you will go and you'll pay everybody else before you pay your family. And then you'll duck and dodge your family member.
And then you duck and dodge, yeah, absolutely.
Right? And it's like, no, you should be wanting, because the strength, right, of the human natural existence is in community.
Yes, it is.
Okay. If we don't have community, we're like, you take all of the glitz and glamour of society that we have now and cities and all this stuff, you put us all back just in the jungle, on the plains, when in nature, by ourselves, we are weak. But collectively, we are strong. We can fight off the bear. We can fight off the tiger. We can work together to fight off the elements that we're up against, right? So in that regard, same thing from a financial standpoint, you should be trying to make your family unit, your collective, whole, right, supporting them in that regard and not taking from them. If you need something from them, great. You get that back to them as soon as possible. They should get paid before anybody else when you get your check, so that you make it right for them, because guess what? They just sacrificed what they needed to do for their family to help you, right? So that dynamic.
Oh, I love it. And, when I think of, like, from the other perspective, it is, for me, is I never want to loan out money that I'm expecting to get back. And then I'm not trying to be the bill collector on your family, but on the other side of it, if you're enabling them, one of the things that I think people don't realize, because I heard the other day that most people want $1 million, want to be a millionaire, because they want to spend $1 million. They don't think about what the $1 million can do for their community. They just want to say, I want to be a millionaire so bad because I want to figure out how to spend that without thinking. And it's because we haven't become the person that we need to that could handle $1 million. And that's why God's not giving to you. Pray for God. Hey, God, please give me a whole bunch of money so you can do what? Spend it?
Right. Blow it.
That's economy, right? You have to become the person. And so with that, becoming that person that can handle that, like you said about being disciplined and having to sacrifice, what would be maybe 3 or 4 disciplines? The person gets their paycheck.
Right.
It comes in and they're used to being a spender and they're not used to being disciplined. They've watched their parents, they've watched their community, they've watched people. This is how life is. This is what we do with our money. Saturday is, we go buy a whole bunch of beer or whatever. Sunday we do this, we go to church, whatever it is that we do on a daily basis. And we wonder why we're not growing economically, why we're not moving up economically. I just got to get another job. But like you said, those habits are still going to be there. Mm-hmm. So if I'm watching this today and I say, okay, what are 4 or 5 things that I do right now when my check comes in, those disciplines that can now change the person I am so I can become the person who can handle more?
Yeah. The first and foremost is you have to make a choice. Okay. Right?
I like that.
You have to choose, do you want? Right? Because
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately, right, it goes back to the adage, is something of that nature, where it said, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do.
Yeah.
Right? So people will say, oh, I want this. Oh, I want that. Oh, I want this. They're saying a lot, but what their actions dictate are showing you exactly what they want. Go back to the weight example, right? So crazy how weight and finance mix. But it's like, hey, I want to lose weight. I want to be thin. I want to be in shape. I want this, that, and the other. But then they're crushing, cheeseburgers from McDonald's on a daily basis and Oreo cookies, and they're drinking the pops, and they're not going to the gym. But they're saying, I want to lose weight. I want to be fit. No, you don't, because look at your actions, right? So you have to mindset financially.
Well, and I love what you said there. Is you didn't say the thing you need to do is go save 10% of your check. Nope. The first thing you need to do is go, exercise. You're saying, wait a minute, before you can even think about those things, you have to decide what you want before you can. I mean, that is so key, because when we watch these YouTube videos or we read these books, they're telling us the how to, but if the choice has never been made,
ain't gonna matter.
You wonder why it worked, right? You realize, hey, I did what they said in the book, and I started saving, but it only lasted for 3 paychecks.
Right.
I couldn't save anymore. Right. I love that. I love it. That's so encouraging that we're not starting with the tools or the how to. We're starting with the mindset.
Yeah, because that stuff's actually easy, Brian. Like the what to do's, right? Like, oh, well, what do I do? Like, that's actually really easy. We're talking about mechanics. That's like a hammer, right? It's like, oh yeah, hammer to drive the nail. Like that. We're talking tools, right? Those are the, once you shift your mindset, because it's like, hey, here's a nails and some wood. Okay, great. There's hammer, nails, and wood. But if in my mindset is to build a house, cool. Now I got a hammer, nails, and wood, right? But if I'm not thinking about building a house, I'm just looking at hammers, nails, and wood.
It's not doing nothing for me.
Yeah. So to tell somebody, hey, do this with your money and do that, like, it doesn't matter until they switch their mindset and decide, make that choice, right?
Okay.
I'm like, here goes. This is where I'm at now. Okay, this is what I want to do. And then once you shift your mindset, then you apply discipline to going after that thing, right? Let's say, hypothetically, somebody wants to save 10% of every check. Cool. You say that, shift your mindset. Why am I saving 10% of every check, right? Well, I'm saving 10% of every check so that I can have money set aside in case there's an emergency. That's an admirable goal. Great.
Absolutely, yeah.
So now apply the discipline to do that, right? How much money do you think you need, right, for that emergency? Let's say, here I'll back up. Let me back up. Mine, this is what I did. and what me and my wife did. Ours was me particular was more of an ego thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. I got told by somebody, and I could do it at the time, but like this spurred me. I'll share it. They said, "Can you write a check right now for $10,000?" And it cleared. And that they hit me in the ego because I'm a competitive person. So ego, and I actually could, right? I could, but they're like, how many people can write a $10,000 check and it clear right now? Right? And I'm like, not a lot of people can do that.
No.
And so for me, even though I could right then at that time, it would have been like, I got like, $30 left, but I did actually have 10,000. So I could have wrote that check and made it clear, but it was like, okay, I want to be to have at least in the bank cash that if I ever need to, boom, bam, I got it, right? I wanted to do that. So that was the ego thing. So I went after that and put money aside to make sure, hey, saving, got $2,000 in the bank, right? Boom, done. That has to be somebody else's thing, right? So if it's, hey, I need $10,000 emergency fund, right, for if I lose my job or something like that, cool. Put that in your mind, say, I'm going to go after that, and then be disciplined about doing that. So, hey, let's say it's a lady. Hey, we're going out to the club. Oh, sorry, I can't go this weekend. I have to wait a couple paychecks so I can save up to go to the club because I'm putting money over here. And you have to be disciplined in that regard to do that, right? Those are really as far as like anything else, it's really just finding what hammer that works good for you after that. What saw you need, what kind of lumber you want to build that house with. But if you're going to do anything, you have to make that choice of changing your mindset, going after what you want to do, and being disciplined in that regard towards it. Here's the last one. How to say no.
Woo! Hello.
Right?
Not just no to everybody, right? No to
no to yourself.
Yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
And in saying no, you're saying yes to something else, right? You're saying yes to that goal that you have. Because I'll tell you, Brian, we talked about this before, how we were able to pay off our house in 4.5 years is we said no to a lot of things. We said no to having cable. We didn't have cable. We completely disconnected. And that was before Netflix and Hulu and all this stuff came out. Okay. So we didn't have all, right? So let's say average at that time, I don't know, $85 for cable, right?
Yeah.
So that's $85 that, guess what? I get to put on my mortgage every month. Okay. I had a fund budget of $100 per month. Now you say, what does that entail? It entails if I'm going to eat out at all, that's lunch, dinners, anything, period. Me individually or me and my wife, that was it. That was food. That was if we want to go to the movies, if we want to get Redbox at the time, and Redbox is popular, right?
Yeah.
If we want to do it with friends. So yeah, friends hated us. They were like, you don't want to do nothing. But guess what? Many of our friends are not in the financial position that we're in.
They're not writing that check for $10,000, right?
No, they're worrying about like paying interest now. Because here's the other thing: who likes going and spending money on something that you don't want or you don't need? Let's say you're out. Do you really want to spend money on a furnace? No, right? You what was the furnace for except for heat? You just wanted to work, right? But you didn't want to spend money on that furnace. Same thing. And for me, that's how I feel about interest and paying interest on loans or credit cards or anything like that, or fees. That's money that I'd have to give out that I get nothing for, essentially, right? And so I hate paying for that I don't want to pay for or shouldn't have to pay for. And interest is one of those things. So when you run your credit card up and you're paying the bare minimum and you're paying all this extra interest, so something goes from being, $1,000 to, over the course of time, you've not only paid that $1,000 back, but you've paid like another 2 or 3 on top of that because of the interest. Was it worth $3,000 or was it worth the $1,000 that you paid? So I will delay gratification and wait until I have enough money to buy whatever that is, so that I don't have to put it on a credit card and I don't have to make a minimum payment, and I'm not paying additional money on top of that already expensive item or on top of whatever that item is, right? But too many people wind up taking out, they're putting vacations on credit card. They're putting, they're all this other stuff on their credit, and then concert tickets or going to the improv, and it's like unless you're paying it off every month in full, there's no reason for you to do that. None.
No, I literally I just grabbed my calculator here and I said $8 a day at Starbucks 5 days a week. In a year and a half, I have $10,000 if I don't go to Starbucks.
$10,000.
$10,000, and so I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy things, but you think of, if I don't have $10,000 in my account right now that I could do something with, and that's my goal,
right? Then
Starbucks doesn't taste as good, because then if your goal is every time you drive there and you go through and the double latte, whatever, you can go, that 5 minutes of that drink worth not being able to pay for my heater or whatever it is, or having that money that's sitting aside for you to do stuff. And then the discipline gets a little bit, I'm thinking the discipline gets a little bit easier, and it does. It does when you delay of looking at your bank account and seeing 10 grand or 5 grand, whatever it is that you've decided is that amount you need for the emergency fund.
Right. And
then you do that. And then now I'm talking about becoming that person again. Now you add the next thing you want. Maybe it's paying off that car. Then the next thing you want. And you're delaying, you made that decision. You've decided this is what I want. And now you've put in place in action ways to be able to get it. Because all of us are making money. If you have a job and you're not just, somebody supporting you, right? Everybody gets to decide what they want to do with the amount of money that comes in. Right. And not everybody knows how to do it. Not everybody has the discipline to do it. Mm-hmm. Most people haven't made a decision to do it. Right. And when I think about, as we're having this conversation and thinking about, the biggest money you have, because they never made the decision. And then talk about a little bit, we are flying through time, but just about budgeting, that seems to be a foreign word, right, to folks when we start talking about a budget and what that means and how to put one together. And, I don't have, I don't want to pay $30 for QuickBooks. I don't want to pay $30 for QuickBooks either. But
not the power company, put a spreadsheet together. Literally, I kid you not, Brian. That's literally what I had is a spreadsheet. I would say, all right, gas, right, or a gas and electric, gas for car. Here's car insurance. Here's housing insurance. Here's food, like groceries, not going out, but here's fund budget, right? Here, and you line item all the things that you're good that put. Here's my fixed costs, right? The things that are unchanging, like my lights, water, that kind of stuff. Like I gotta pay these things, right? And these are pretty much not gonna vary for the most part. So here's the mortgage, here's this and the other, car note, blah blah blah. And then okay, all right, how much is that? All right, it's this much down the list. You calculate that all up, and Excel will help you do that. Put in a nice little formula, or you can just do it on a calculator if you don't know how to manipulate Excel. And then you look at it, and you're like, okay, this is how much so you have to treat yourself as a business, right? Mm-hmm. Here's my expenses, right? And then here's how much I make per month. And then you look at them, and you say, if my expenses are greater than my income, then you got to do something about your expenses, okay? Yeah. Yeah. And then what actually became really fun for us, is we're freaking nerds, but it is, how do I minimize my expenses as much as possible, right? So you start playing a game with it, and that's when you start picking up the phone and you call your insurances and you're like, I need a better rate. And you start calling around, right? How can I drop this another $25-$50? You start playing around with your utility bill. Maybe I don't need to turn the heat up as high in the winter. Maybe we can wear a few more clothes so I can shave another $25-30 off of the winter bill. Or maybe in the summer, open up some windows. I don't need to run the AC 24/7. So again, I can shave another $20-30. Cool. That's another $20-30 a month. Now all of a sudden, let's say it's $20 a month, right? We're looking at another $240 a year off of your electric. Okay. And you do the same thing for your water, $240. So you save $20 a month, right? So now we're looking at what, $480?
Yeah.
$480, that next bill, that car note, right? Per year. Now you're like, oh, that's not that much, but yeah, it adds up just like that Starbucks coffee, right? Imagine if, like how you said, that's $10,000 in Starbucks every day. Okay. So go every other day. Now you got $5,000 that you can then set aside.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And budget for that. Say, look, I had Starbucks yesterday. I'm not going to get Starbucks today. Tomorrow, I can go get Starbucks though. And then the day after that, I'm not going to get Starbucks. And you budget that. And then you take whatever that money you would have spent on Starbucks, you move that over to that bill, or you move that over to that investment. One of my favorite things right now, again, I'm a nerd, but I also like making my money work for me, is I love buying stocks. So I'm like, how much can I save so I can buy some more stock? So that then I can have my stock pay a dividend, and then I reinvest the dividends to buy more stock. And then my dividends continue to grow because I have more stock, right? And when they pay out dividends, I buy dividend paying stocks. I like doing that. Now I'm getting like all of this generated income that, should I ever need to, I can start taking those dividends instead of reinvesting them. And I can use that, what was it? Robert Kiyosaki talked about, like the rich dad guy who talks about, he's like, so I don't go and buy a Mercedes with a $500 a month note. He's like, I buy an investment that cash flows me $500 so that I can pay my Mercedes.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what I like to do with my money. So those are the types of goals that I now have. Is I have this goal of getting cash flow, of getting additional investments and getting additional wealth. So now I'm disciplined in saving my money to go buy more of that, so that I can just keep that cycle going and make my money work for me. Because eventually I don't want to go and work for somebody else.
Yes.
Wake up and I have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, BJ, and I'm going to give you time. We are literally at minutes, and so which has been, this is probably one of the best shows because it's practical mindset, and I want you to come back because I want to take it to another level. We've just begun to start shifting the way people think about money. When we think about community and we think about what we can do in our community to have people have these richer and better lives. Yeah. But it's not going to happen if we keep the same habits that we have, because we're getting, the systems that are in place, we're getting out what they were designed to do. The things that we think about, we're getting out what it's designed to do. So and I don't know why I'm stuck on this theme today, but until we become that person who can do more, we can't do more. And so whether it's in the next few weeks or it's the next month, and I want to take it to a new level, because I think there's people who are sitting at, all right, I got that now. Where do I go now to really start making some good money, financial decisions? Mm-hmm. And so if you'll come back, but I also want you, in the next 4 or 5 minutes to talk about, something that you're doing or something people can be part of, what's in the community going on that you would love people to plug into that can not only, help their lives, because I know you do a lot of community work. And so I want you to talk about that. And then I promise folks, we will have DJ back on. We will talk about this. We will go however many hours it takes to make your life improve, to get it. Yeah. I was just looking at Google, right? I said, Google, you need to have internet. I'm just telling you now, you need to have internet. That's one of those things you need to spend money on, because it's a tool that you can learn, and education is important. But they have free templates on budgets. You don't have to pay Quicken. You don't have to, or QuickBooks or whoever it is. There are templates on budgets that you can go on right now on a Google spreadsheet that are free. Mm-hmm. Getting a Google account is free. There are tutorials on how to use it for free, and then you start that process of getting it done. So go ahead and just tell us about what you would love us to know.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll actually start from the beginning real quick. I'll be quick, okay. But I think one other thing that people need is that Once you change your mindset, once you apply the discipline, if there are things you don't know how to do, ask. Seek out that information, because there are people who know how to do this stuff and can teach you and would love to teach you and show you and help you. Don't let pride get in the way because you don't know. You didn't ride a bike at one point, right? And you took somebody showing you how to ride a bike, and then you know how to ride a bike. So same thing with your financial perspective. Don't be ashamed. Don't be sad. Don't be whatever it is that keeps you from moving forward for your financial position. Ask the questions, seek out people who have the expertise and the knowledge, and get their help to help you. Okay. So I would say definitely do that. Right. Oh yeah, for sure. But as far as things that I'm doing right now, I'm focused on Black economic mobility, right? And us circulating the dollar amongst the Black community. For better or worse, are the weak link of American society, right? As of right now, we are the weak link. And so if we decide and make the choices to support one another, right, to support our businesses, we can go and buy the changes that we want to see for the Black community. What do I mean by changes we want to see? We want to see better education. It's going to cost money. If you want to see better policies, politicians cost money. Let's just be real about this. They cost money. They need to pay staff. They need to survive themselves. They need to be able to go out here and push bills and to get reelected, because if they do something that their peers don't like and it might be in support of Black people, guess what? They're going to try and run somebody against them. And that's going to be more money that they have to pay for that campaigning, right? To try and beat that person, because that will happen. So we don't talk about those dynamics, but yes, politicians, they cost money. We'll have to buy policies, okay? If you want better healthcare for Black people, that's going to cost money. And the way that we do this, right? And so on and so forth, smaller incarceration rates, so on and so forth, that kind of stuff, less drugs, less violence, costs money. And the reason it costs money is because there's programs. People have to get paid for the work that they're doing out there. It's hard for me to sit up here and say, hey, guess what? I'm going to work a full-time job, and then I'm going to commit myself to go and help and do all these things for free. Now, you're working 2 full-time jobs. You don't have a family. Your bills are not getting paid. They are because you got to work that other, and you're going to be drained. You're going to be torn in 2 different directions. Your family's going to suffer. Your mental state's going to suffer. All that, right? So if we circulate the Black dollar amongst these businesses, support Black businesses get better. They help hire employees that therefore look like them, to get them off of assistance or working for other folks. We build that up. Those businesses with their profits, they're able to then put money into and get tax deductions, right? So it's financial good for those businesses. Those Black businesses pour into the programs that support people who look like them. That work gets done, and therefore we continue that cycle. And now we're building a stronger chain together. So the Black link then gets stronger. The entire American fabric chain gets stronger. And America then is propped up. The world then is propped up as we continue to develop. So plug into Black businesses, support them financially, support them emotionally, and just, that's what I'm into right now.
Perfect. And what I'll do is I'll put in the comments a way to connect to, the stuff that you're doing, connect to you, or connect to your website, or connect to ways to because that is important that we have Black economic mobility. So appreciate that. Well, BJ, it's been a pleasure once again. We're going to do this again. Sure. It's not going to be long. We're going to do it together because I think we both have a mission to really make a difference in our communities and to the people who are there. And so for those of you who listen, thanks for being a part of the Journey to Freedom podcast episode. Like I said, BJ, it's been phenomenal having you on. You guys have a wonderful, just incredible, just awestruck day today. Take what you learned today, apply it, make a difference, put back into the comments, subscribe that you're doing well because you are applying some of these principles. And then I promise you we'll have more for you. So you guys have just this incredible day. And we'll look forward to talking to you on the next one.
Nice.